Now that you are familiar with the AutoCAD user interface, let's talk about some of the changes that we can make to the interface to maybe customize it more to your needs. I'm going to make a few changes and set AutoCAD up the way I like to use it. You don't have to do all of these changes, but feel free to play around with it until it's set the way that you like. If you like it out of the box the way it is right now, great, leave it just like that. The first thing I'm going to change is the command line. The command line right now, new in AutoCAD 2013, is really small and minimized and kind of out of the way. That's great if you are a seasoned user and you don't really need to look at the command line very often. But as new users, we definitely want to pay attention to the command line. So one of the ways I'm going to bring attention to it is by docking it. You can dock it by using these little dots, just clicking and dragging on them. If you drag down just a little bit, you can actually dock it at the bottom of your screen. That used to be the default for AutoCAD. I'm going to drag these dots back out into my screen again, and I'm actually going to drag this up and dock it at the top of my screen. I prefer this in my classroom. It's a little easier to see. It might be a little more eye level for you, so you might be able to pay more attention to your command line. So feel free to dock it in either of those ways if you wish. I also prefer 3 lines in my command line, so I'm going to click and drag the edge down just a little bit. Now I'm giving up some screen drawing space in order to have my command line, but again I think that's pretty important as new users to be able to see the command line. Next thing I want to bring your attention to is the status bar down here. So the status bar has a bunch of buttons that will turn on features that allow us to draw more effectively. And right now if I were to tell you to click on the polar button, you'd have to remember which of these symbols is polar, and if you hold your mouse on them, you'll get the little screen tips and eventually figure out which one is polar tracking. I prefer to see the text. So if you right click on any one of these buttons, you will see the option for use icons. If you turn that off, then you will see each of these options as a text button. So it's a lot easier when I say to, for example, turn off OSnap. Well, there's OSnap. You can easily turn it off. So it's turned on if it's blue. At this point, I would recommend that you turn off every option, because we're going to start drawing with the basics, just using coordinates and those sorts of things. And then as we start to learn some of these faster features, we'll turn each of these buttons off. Another thing I like to do is customize the color and a few size issues. So if you want to do that, again, feel free. Just simply right-click anywhere in your AutoCAD screen and choose Options, which brings up this dialog box. And then you want to click on the Display tab. And there is a colors button right here. If I choose colors, I can now customize the colors of any items inside of AutoCAD. Right now it's set to 2D model space, uniform background. I can change the color of the background. So feel free to choose any color that you like. Some of you might prefer drawing black on white. So if I choose white and apply it, then I've got a white background. I prefer the black background. The one straight out of the box is kind of almost black. I like the actual black, so I'm going to choose that one. I like the high contrast on my presentations. I'm also going to hit colors again here, and I'm going to change a couple other things. I'm going to change my command line. I like to change its color to yellow so that it's bright and calls your attention to it. And I'm also going to do that with the active prompt background. I'll change that yellow as well, and when I apply and close, you can see those changes there. And then I also increase the font size of my command line a little bit, just to make it a little more readable to my students. So I'm going to choose maybe a size 12 font here, and apply and close that. I also like to increase my crosshair size, so I'll click OK, and you can see how small my crosshairs are. I'm going to make those a little larger. Once again, I'm just going to right click and go to Options and increase my crosshair size a little bit. So as I click OK, you can see I have larger crosshairs. I like to increase the size of my pick box as well, which is that little square in the middle. So once more, I will right click and go to Options and click on Selection. There we go. And then increase the pick box size a little bit. That'll make it easier to pick on items later when we're selecting things. So if I click OK here, then I get a little larger crosshair, a little easier to see. One more thing I like to do is actually change the color of it. So I'm going to right click and go to Options again, Back to display and colors, and then I will find my crosshairs and change their color. I'll change that to yellow to match my command line. There's many other things that you can change in here. I like to just hit those few things just to bring some attention. Now I'm only showing 3 lines on my command line because of the larger font size, so I'm going to stretch that out just a little bit here. So again, those are totally optional. It's something I do. That way when you see my screen, you understand how I got to this point. If you like the stock look, feel free to keep that. And once again, that is how you customize the user interface in AutoCAD.